in my genes.
It's all about willpower. Just don't eat so much.
I just look at food and I gain weight. Why can my husband eat anything he wants?
I don't get it. Why can't I lose weight? I have tried every diet in the book.
Is obesity genetic? Obesity has become a global epidemic affecting over 650 million adults worldwide. In the United States alone, more than 1 in 3 adults and nearly 1 in 5 children struggle with this complex disease. And while lifestyle factors like diet and physical exercise do play a role, there's a growing body of evidence that suggests that our genes may be an integral part to our susceptibility to obesity. It's not just the food that we're eating, it could be our predisposition towards obesity. Studies on twins, families, and adopted children have shed light on the profound influence of genetics in weight. It is estimated that 40 to 70% of the variations in body mass index or BMI among individuals can be attributed to genetic factors. Monozygotic twins, who share 100% of their genes, have a much higher concordance rate for obesity compared to dizygotic twins, indicating an undeniable role of heredity. In rare cases, obesity can be traced to one single gene mutation, a condition known as monogenetic obesity. These mutations often disrupt the intricate dance between hormones, neurotransmitters, and brain circuits that can regulate our appetite and our metabolism. For example, mutations in the leptin gene or its receptor can lead to insatiable hunger and rapid weight gain from an early age, as the body fails to receive the stop eating signal normally produced by this satiety hormone called leptin. That's a condition called Prader-Willi syndrome. While monogenetic obesity accounts for a very small fraction of cases, studying these rare conditions has illuminated complex biological pathways underlying weight regulation. It's the vast majority of individuals where we see that obesity arises from the cumulative effects of multiple genetic variants, each contributing a small piece to the overall risk. Genome-wide association studies have verified over 250 genetic loci linked to obesity and BMI. One of the most common players is called the FTO gene, which has been associated with increased food intake, reduced satiety, and a higher risk of obesity, particularly in junk food environments. Carrying just one copy of the high-risk FTO variant can lead to 20 to 30% increased likelihood of developing obesity. Our genes do not exist in a vacuum. They are constantly interacting with the environment around us. The expression of obesity-related genes can be influenced by factors such as diet, physical activity, and stress. There is a Thrifty gene hypothesis that proposes that certain genetic variants that were once advantageous for survival during times of food scarcity now may predispose us to obesity in our modern world of food abundance. There's no more food scarcity, but our genes have not caught up with that current day truth. Obesity is also caused by a disorder of intricate neurochemical and hormonal systems that govern our eating behavior. Hormones such as leptin, ghrelin, insulin, they're molecular messengers relaying information about our energy stores and nutritional intake to the brain. Ghrelin signals hunger and leptin signals fullness. Studies have shown that individuals with obesity often have higher levels of leptin, which is stored in the fat cells, and then inevitably lead to higher leptin sensitivity, which means that their brain no longer responds to the leptin stop eating signal even when fat stores are high. Neurotransmitters such as dopamine, serotonin, endocannabinoids modulate what we call the reward pathway, which is associated with the pleasure of eating. These neurochemicals may become blunted through overuse, leading to increased hunger, impaired satiety, and altered food preferences. We call that phenomenon food addiction, the result being that our desire for food overwhelms our willpower. We have empirical evidence showing that the dopamine 2 receptors associated with addiction reflect a similar pattern to those suffering from obesity. Epidemiological studies, which are studies that look at populations over time, show that dopamine 2 receptor dysregulation is hereditary. In other words, families with high rates of addiction often are the same families that high rates of obesity. Dopamine 2 receptors is the addiction and the obesity gene. The conclusion one might make here is that obese individuals who have that dopamine 2 dysregulation may be predisposed to food addiction by virtue of their DNA. So that's genetics. What about epigenetics? Adding another layer of complexity is the field of epigenetics, which explores how environmental factors may promote gene expression, which might otherwise be dormant. The phrase that people often use is genetics is the gun and epigenetics is the trigger. Epigenetic changes such as DNA methylation and histone modifications have been implicated in the development of obesity. Intriguingly, these epigenetic markers can be influenced by factors such as maternal nutrition during pregnancy. Think what mothers eat even before their baby is born, early adverse childhood experiences, and exposure to environmental toxins, including the toxins in junk food. These all can be the trigger for the loaded gun of genetics. Some studies suggest that these epigenetic alterations that I've just mentioned may actually be passed down to future generations, potentially contributing to the intergenerational cycle of obesity. What can we do with this understanding of the genetics that may influence obesity? Genetic testing could help identify individuals at higher risk for obesity, allowing for earlier intervention and targeted lifestyle modifications. These are the folks who must not eat refined carbohydrates and sugar, even in moderation, because of their heightened predisposition towards obesity. Pharmacogenomics, the study of how genes influence drug response, may enable healthcare providers to select the most effective medications based on a patient's genetic profile. For example, individuals with certain variants in the MC4R gene, which plays a key role in appetite regulation, may respond better to specific weight loss drugs, such as semaglutide, that target this pathway. In recent years, there's been a proliferation of novel medications that have offered new hope for individuals struggling with obesity, particularly those with a genetic predisposition. One of the most promising classes of these drugs are the GLP-1s, the glucagon-like peptide receptor agonists. These medications, originally developed for the treatment of type 2 diabetes, of which there is a strong genetic component, have shown remarkable ability to promote weight loss, more so among some people than others. GLP-1 is a hormone that is naturally released in the gut after a meal, signaling satiety to the brain and slowing gastric emptying. By mimicking the action of this GLP-1 hormone, these drugs help individuals feel full longer, reduce cravings, and overall calorie intake. For people with severe obesity who have not responded to lifestyle interventions and pharmacotherapy, there is also bariatric surgery, which may be a viable option. That includes procedures such as gastric bypass or sleeve gastrectomy, which not only restrict food intake, but may actually change hormonal and neurochemical signaling. And these surgeries have been shown to dramatically improve obesity-related comorbidities, such as type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and sleep apnea, at least at the outset. These interventions may be considered sooner than later for those individuals predisposed to severe obesity. As we continue to unravel the genetic tapestry of obesity, it is crucial that we approach this complex disease with empathy, understanding, and a commitment to evidence-based solution. But while our genes may influence our susceptibility to obesity, they don't determine our destiny. They guide us perhaps towards early interventions. For example, be more strict with your choice of foods, or consider medication or surgery at an earlier time than somebody else to avoid what might otherwise seem inevitable in our current industrial ultra-processed food environment, which is, we call, highly obesogenic. From the broader perspective, researchers, healthcare providers, policymakers, and individuals, all of us, we must create a world where healthy food choices are accessible to all, regardless of our financial status, where stigma is replaced by support, so that people suffering from obesity seek help rather than trying to do it on their own in the darkness of their shame, and where better food choices are applauded rather than dismissed. Finally, to live in a world where the genetic threads that make each of us unique are celebrated rather than feared. Thank you.